Bass anglers love fishing topwater tactics, but as Fish Ed host Jon Thelen reveals next, it pays to cast crankbaits when the surface bite fizzles.
First light. Sun's not up yet. It's not far off. We're just getting that first light. There's a fish right away. Look at that. Throwing crankbaits this morning, and I'll tell you why. It's midsummer, headed into that late summer time frame. And this is the time of the year where throwing crankbaits can just get deadly. Good largemouth to start our day. Second cast. Man, what a way to start. But we're gonna throw cranks today, and we're gonna talk about how to catch bass when you're in that time frame where they're not hitting topwaters quite the same. And there's a couple things about it. That can be seasonal, and that can also be because of weather conditions. And we're gonna have both of those things today working against us. Okay, so I'm not gonna throw topwaters today. Little bass to start, but you know what? He snapped it fast, and that's always a good sign when you get a fish right away. It just tells you that you've started with something right. One thing you'll notice I do when I cast towards shore, I'm running right now a Bandit 100. This is a shallow diving crank. It's only gonna go down 2 to 5 feet. But when I cast towards shore, my rod tips up. As soon as I get out a little bit further, then I drop my rod tip. The idea behind that is I'm trying to not get hung up. When I hit that shallow stuff right away, there's a fish right there, a little one. I'm trying to not get hung up. Look at that, crappie. Just goes to show you. Man, I'll tell you what, any fish will hit a crank. Look at that crappie come up and hit it. Living right in that same area as the bass are. And he just comes smoking out of there and smacked it. It's kind of funny too, because it was a different feeling hit. It was right at the boat, and now I understand why. Look at that. Cool little fish. Get out of here, buddy. But what I'm trying to do is make sure by holding that rod tip up high on the shallow part of the cast, when I'm casting towards shore, that I don't get hung up and get weeded up and mess up the rest of the cast. And then once I get out a little bit, then I'll drop that rod tip. Knowing I'm a 2 to 5 foot diver, if I got that rod tip up and I'm cranking, I'm probably at 2 feet in there. As soon as I drop the rod tip, I'm getting down into that 4 or 5 foot neighborhood. There he is. Let's see what we got here. Little guy. All right, buddy. I guess he's not as bad as I thought. Another one of those same fish. There's a lot of these 12 and 13-inch bass in this lake. It's a healthy lake. This lake's gonna have a lot of big bass in it in the future. There's been a great bunch of fish in that type of year class right there coming through the system in this lake. Let me tell you a little bit about the locations I'm looking for when I'm thinking about cranking. Number one, I'm thinking earlier in the morning, something where I can cast up into the shallows and run right over the tops of some weeds. Most of the time these fish are going to be relating to some type of structure, and for largemouth bass, most of the time that's going to be vegetation. Smallmouth bass, that's going to be rocks, boulders, stuff like that, but largemouth bass, it's going to be vegetation. So I want to be able to run over the tops. Then as the day wears on, I'll slide out a little bit, and I want to be able to fish the edge. Now, I still might have some weeds underneath the bait while I'm retrieving it, but they're going to be deeper in the water column. That's what I'm going to go to, a little bit deeper dive and lure, and I'm just going to slide out a little bit. I might fish this same spot a little bit later, but just position the boat 15, 20 feet further out so that I'm bringing it back out a little further, out a little deeper, because those fish will just slide out a little bit. But when it comes down to it, if you kind of work that progression throughout the morning into the you know, late morning into the early afternoon, just keep moving yourself out and fish in that little bit different area. You're gonna find that those fish will just keep moving. And they're not gonna move far. They're just gonna slide out a little bit deeper, a little bit further on that weed line. There's one. That one came a long ways to hit it. I could feel it. I mean, he hit it so hard. He hit it coming at it from the side. It's a good bass. That's a good one. Look at that. Now that's a really nice fish. Let's see if I can get him without getting hooked. Come here, buddy. Let's get you unhooked and show you off, and we'll let you get out of here. Good fish. Man, I'll tell you what. When you look at sheer numbers, we're wrecking them this morning. We are catching them fast. Now, I'm going through some smaller fish, but I mean, we're catching bass in a hurry this morning, throwing a crank. And I know it's not something most people think about, but I'll tell you what, you can really put it on them. Let's talk a little bit about the baits that I'm using, because I made a choice this morning to fish bandits. I really like bandits. Bandits, you know, whether I'm fishing the walleye baits, you know, the walleye deeps, walleye shallows, I tend to just catch a lot of fish and a lot of really good fish. But this is a really cool bait. This is a Bandit BDT 100. This is a cool little bait. And you listen to this bait, it's got a rattle in it. And man, you watch it run in the water and it's got that tight little wiggle. It just looks like something that a fish is gonna hit, okay? But this is that 2 to 5 foot that I'm talking about. This is cast, retrieve it. I can run it pretty hard. I can feel it really easy. I'm fishing super line today. You know, you can fish mono. You can fish fluorocarbon if you want to try to run your lures a little bit deeper, because that fluorocarbon will sink. But you know what? This super line lets me really control it. I can fish it high or low in the water column because I can run it harder, and the super line will let it dive a little bit harder, and yet the super line will float. So if I want to leave it sitting up a little bit higher when I first hit the water and give it a couple pulls, just almost like a topwater bait, I can make it dive a couple times and try to grab their attention when it's up tight, shallow. That's a really cool bait right there. Then there's this one. This is that Bandit 200 I'm talking about. Same concept, same body, just a little bit deeper bill. And what that's going to do is allow me to get to that 4 to 8 feet, okay? We're going to be fishing this lure a little bit later. There's no doubt in my mind. And then if we get out to the point where we're going to fish real deep water, now I'm going to switch over to my bait caster, because I'm going to throw a little bit heavier lure. This is a Bomber fat-free shad. Man, I'll tell you what, this lure right here, just like everything I'm throwing today, this thing catches a lot of fish when they hit that bottom edge of those weeds. This is what we would call deep cranking right here. What I'm starting with this morning is shallow cranking, and what we'll stop on and fish this 200 on at one point or another today, it's kind of that mid-range cranking. But if you have those 3 types of lures all set and ready to go, you're covered. You got everything you need to run along and do exactly what we're doing here. And you can see, I mean, these fish are snapping. I mean, we're whacking on them. It's one after another here. And I mean, I'm fishing water now. I'm just cruising. This is water I don't know. I've never even fished this when I've been on this lake before. So what I'm doing right now is just covering ground, and this crank's allowing me to do it. And you know what? I'm finding out there's fish all along this whole stretch. There's one. I think this might be a pretty good fish. This is a pretty good one, I think. Oh yeah, look at this one. Oh yeah, big fish, big fish. This is what I've been after today, right here. Look at that, big fish. That's the deal right there. Man, we've caught a lot of fish today, but this guy right here, holy moly, this is a bigger one. Look at that, out off the edge. He was probably shallow earlier, but as the day's gone on, he just slid out. That's a crankbait bass right there. That's a nice largemouth anywhere you go fishing, man. That's awesome. Get out of here, big boy. That's cool. There he is. Got him. Right when I hit the water, I jerked it twice. I just kind of popped at it, and this fish hit it. Feels like a pretty decent fish. I haven't seen him yet. He stayed down the whole time. There he is. There he is. Good fish. Good fish. I just picked this shallow rod back up and got this fish to bite. Really nice bass. Nice fish. Great way to wrap up a day. Look at that, man. I'll tell you, this is fun stuff. And this is overlooked bass fishing. I don't see a lot of guys outside of tournament guys out casting cranks. But you can go out, you get fish like that, you can have a ball catching them. I mean, that's a fun fish to catch anywhere you go. And you can get them right throughout the summer, even when the bite starts to slow down in those top waters and they leave that super shallow water and you can't get them with your frogs anymore. Just switch to cranks. Pick up some cranks, cast them around, just work those outside edges, work your way down, stepping down in depth, and I'll tell you what, you can catch just as many fish as you were getting earlier in the year on that top water stuff. This is fun fishing here.